So hello everyone, my name is Jay Mavji and I'm here to talk about the evolution of martial arts, which is the topic I chose for my FMP. So before we begin, I want you to know what martial art actually is. The word martial comes from the name of the Roman god of war, Mars, in which literally makes the term martial arts as the art of war, or the art of Mars in this case. This term comes from the 15th century Europeans who refer in this way to their own fighting, in which known today as martial arts. Historically, martial art has been with us for thousands of years, and probably because of this, it makes the history of martial arts so interesting to look at. The oldest work of art showing scenes of battle goes back all the way 3400 BCE Egypt in paintings, and there are clear references to martial arts with both armed and barehanded combat in a section found in the Indian Vedas from 1700 to 1100 BCE. So there is a martial art known as Greek pankration, in which is considered to be one of the very first martial arts in history. This includes a submission with barely any rules, used techniques from boxing and wrestling, and even other types such as kicking, holds, locks, and chokes on the ground, where the only thing not acceptable was biting or gouging the opponent's eyes. Looking back at Asia, where most of our well-known martial arts originated, the earliest historical references to Chinese martial arts found in the 5th century BCE were a hand-to-hand combat theory in which combines the idea of hard and soft techniques is mentioned in a book. As a matter of fact, the foundation of Asian martial arts is not only a blend of Chinese but also of Indian martial arts. Now, in the Middle Ages, martial arts was mostly performed using weapons in wars. There are people known as samurais, in which were warriors performing martial arts with a sword, and this had been really effective at the time. However, a Japanese art known as Jujutsu had been created and developed in which became a way to counter an opponent with a sword, and which were used on the battlefield for close combat situations where weapons were ineffective. There had been lots of different types of martial arts. Chinese martial arts focused on striking techniques mostly, whereas the Japanese focused heavily upon throwing, immobilizing, locks, and choking because of the fact that people would wear armor and at the time, so these techniques had been the most effective. Although sword fighting and hand-to-hand combat was still popular in warfare, in the 18th and 19th centuries, martial arts began to gain a lot more popularity as a sport or a hobby. There had been things like fencing, wrestling, boxing, and with this everything began to become more eventful. The 18th and 19th century also was the time when the formation of modern jiu-jitsu, karate, kendo, and judo was seen. These martial arts had become very popular and taught and used everywhere, and there had been competitions based on these, like a martial arts tournament, in which of course the winner would get a prize. Then, in the 20th century, there had been movies coming out based on all sorts of different martial arts. Professional martial artists began to act in movies showing off their skills and making money at the same time, and it really expressed the positive side of this violence in my opinion, and that I felt was beautiful. You must have heard of Bruce Lee. He was a brilliant martial artist who created his own martial art, which was called Jeet Kune Do, which made him very popular and is still the greatest martial artist out there, who had become a famous actor during his time, but then sadly passed away. He was really an inspiration to a lot of people. So as you can see, I have done a lot of research on this topic, and that is only because I am very fond of and really like the whole idea of fighting itself, and that is exactly why I based my FMP on this specific topic, because I knew if I do something I like, I would work more and put more effort. So for my FMP, I'm not entirely sure what exactly I want to do. I was thinking to making a fighting game app, maybe using Adobe XD, and I wanted to create a magazine based on this topic where I would add images and have it all detailed. And keep in mind, I have already made a magazine before using Adobe Illustrator, and it went quite well, so I'm sure this will go just fine. Now, just so you know, it took me quite a while to actually find my topic, because out of all the other projects I have done, I have got to say that this is one of the most difficult themes out of all of them, and which is expected for the FMP. So I had tons of ideas such as human evolution, the evolution of guns, and more, but none of them interested me. Evolution of cars as well, but none of them interested me, and so I figured out something I'd like to do: the evolution of martial arts. So there was a day I went on a trip to the Natural History Museum and the Science Museum, only to find some sort of things that is related to my topic. So there wasn't anything in the Science Museum of relation. However, the National History Museum had a few, in which was in this section of the Japanese area. So it was perfect, and you already saw some of my last slides, some of the last pictures, some of the pictures I took in the last slides. Now going back to what I will be doing, in the magazine app, I will definitely make appropriate use of those pictures I took by adding them onto the magazine and app, and have it detailed enough for it to fit in to make it perfect. So I can say that going on that trip will definitely help me. Now if I were to talk about a target audience for my magazine, all I could possibly say is that they would be people that like the idea of fighting and would want to know some facts about it. But for the app, if I can make this game app successfully, I guess I would say the same thing as a target audience, but with an age of 10 plus. That sounds appropriate in my opinion. Now regarding the game app, I'm planning to create using Adobe XD. I've never actually made a game before, and to be honest, I have never tried. But when I used Adobe XD in my last project, I found it quite fun to use and play around with, and it was just satisfying to make it work. So in my FMP, I will actually be testing my own skills using Adobe XD. Let's see how far I can get. With the magazine, I know it will go just fine because I have created one before. So I will look at a couple of other magazines and magazines that are related to my topic, so I get an idea of what I'm putting myself into, and then I will work through it efficiently and get it done as soon as possible. So this whole time, to plan everything, I've been using this online website called Trello, and it helps you plan on things you have done or need to do. I think it is really helpful, so I would actually suggest to anyone who wants to plan something to use Trello. So my aim and objective is to deliver my project within the given time and have it done with the best of my abilities. In order for me to get a good grade, I hope that it will all turn out well. Thank you for listening.